The Art of Building Wealth from Nothing. Written and published by Audiobook. Introduction. You were never handed a golden ticket. No trust fund. No secret inheritance waiting in the mail. Just your name, your breath, and a fire inside you that refused to burn out. This book is for the ones who started with empty pockets, but carried a rich imagination. For the ones who were told they weren't enough, and decided that would never be the end of their story. You see, wealth isn't just about money. It's about power. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that whispers, "I will not stay small." It's about walking into rooms no one thought you belonged in, and staying long enough to own them. It's about building habits in silence, while the world laughs loud. And one day, silencing the world with your results. This audiobook is not about get-rich-quick gimmicks. It's about rewiring the way you think. It's about understanding money, not as paper, but as energy, leverage, and legacy. It's about making peace with your past, and creating a future that outlives you. You'll hear stories of rock bottom, of people who started with nothing but a side hustle and self-respect. You'll feel the weight of nights filled with doubt, and the thrill of breakthroughs earned in silence. Every chapter is a mirror. Every principle, a challenge. Every word, a reminder that your circumstances are not your ceiling. By the end of this journey, you'll no longer ask, "Can I build wealth?" You'll ask, "How high can I build it?" But let me ask you something. What if the version of you who has it all, the version who's financially free, grounded, generous, unstoppable, what if that version isn't far away? What if they're just waiting for you to take the first step? Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Seed in the Dirt. Have you ever looked at your bank account and felt like it was laughing at you? Not just empty, but echoing. You sit there, shoulders hunched, breath tight, staring at numbers that feel like a personal insult. Maybe you've been there. Maybe you're there right now. I have. There was a time I couldn't afford gas and groceries in the same week. I had dreams bigger than my zip code, but pockets full of receipts and overdue notices. I remember one night. The lights were out. Not because I was being romantic, but because the electric bill hadn't been paid in weeks. I sat on the floor, surrounded by silence. No TV. No distractions. Just the hum of my thoughts. And I remember thinking, this can't be it. This can't be where my story ends. But here's the truth. Wealth doesn't start with money. It starts with belief. It starts with a decision. A decision to look at the dirt you've been planted in, and believe that there's a seed buried deep inside you. The kind of seed that survives storms. The kind that doesn't need perfect conditions. Only commitment. Because wealth isn't a windfall. It's a slow, gritty, daily watering of that seed. Let me take you into the life of someone you might recognize. Or maybe, someone who reminds you of you. Meet Jasmine. Single mom. Minimum wage job. 2 kids. No savings. No child support. No rich uncle. But she had a gift. She knew how to braid hair. At first, it was just for her daughters. Then the neighbors started noticing. One asked, "Can you do mine?" Then another. Then a cousin. Then a coworker. Jasmine didn't wait for a business loan. She didn't write a business plan. She didn't even have a website. She had a folding chair, a front porch, and a dream that refused to die. By the end of the year, she was fully booked every weekend. By year 2, she had a small suite in a shared salon. Year 3, she opened her own shop. Today, Jasmine teaches other women how to start with what they have, and grow something that feeds their family. Here's what she taught me. You don't need more money to start. You need more courage. Before we go on, if this story is opening your eyes, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the channel. It helps us reach more souls just like yours. Now, let's go deeper. Because what Jasmine discovered is something most people miss. There is power in the skill you overlook. The thing you do naturally. The thing you think isn't valuable, because it's easy for you. But what comes easy to you might be gold to someone else. Let me ask you something. What are you good at? What do people ask you for help with? What lights you up? You don't need to quit your job tomorrow. You don't need 1 million followers. You need to start paying attention to the quiet whispers of your own potential. That's where wealth begins. Not in Wall Street. Not in stock tips. But in self-awareness. And it grows when you stop apologizing for wanting more. Listen. People will say, be realistic. Stay in your lane. Just be grateful. But there's a difference between gratitude and surrender. You can be grateful and still grow. You can honor your roots and still reach higher. You can be planted in the dirt and still rise. That's the paradox of building wealth from nothing. It's not about where you start. It's about what you believe about where you start. Because the truth is, every millionaire, every self-made success, every generational story of wealth started with one person who refused to shrink. And if you're listening to this, you just might be that person. So here's your first challenge. Identify your seed. The one skill, insight, passion, or problem you can solve with what you already know. Then water it. Talk about it. Test it. Offer it. Trade it. Sell it. Just start. You don't need to see the whole staircase. Only the next step. And when you take that step, everything begins to shift. Let's pause for a moment. What would your life look like 1 year from now? If you planted that seed today? Let's find out. Chapter 2. The cycle beneath the hustle. You wake up tired. Already behind. Chasing the day like it owes you something. You work hard. You say yes to everything. You hustle. You grind. You push through. But at the end of the month, you're still broke. Still stressed. Still wondering. Where did all the money go? Let me ask you something. How many times have you said this to yourself? I just need to make more money? It sounds logical, doesn't it? But here's the truth most people never confront. It's not just about how much you make. It's about what's happening underneath. There's a cycle. One that repeats over and over. Silently. Relentlessly. And until you see it, you'll stay stuck in the same financial loop, no matter how hard you work. Let me introduce you to Marcus. Marcus was a warehouse supervisor. He made decent money. Had a steady job. 2 promotions in 5 years. But every time he got a raise, his bank account still flatlined. His debt kept climbing. And the stress? Always lingering like background noise. Marcus didn't have a money problem. He had a pattern problem. You see, Marcus grew up watching his parents fight about money. Bills were paid late. Credit cards maxed out. Every financial decision was a reaction, not a plan. Without realizing it, Marcus inherited more than their debt. He inherited their beliefs. Beliefs like, if I have it, I should spend it. If I don't spend it now, it'll be gone. People like us don't get rich. Sound familiar? Marcus was living in what I call survival spending, where money feels unsafe in your hands, so you let it go as fast as it comes in. Even success became a threat. Because holding on to wealth required an identity Marcus didn't believe he was allowed to have. Let's pause for a moment. What beliefs about money did you inherit? Not the ones you say out loud. The ones that live in your habits. The ones that show up when you get unexpected income and feel the urge to get rid of it. Because here's the thing. You will never outperform your financial identity. That's the cycle beneath the hustle. It doesn't matter how much you grind. If you still believe you're broke, you'll act like it, spend like it, sabotage like it. So how do you break free? Let's walk through it. Step 1. Awareness. Start tracking not just what you spend, but why you spend. Is it to feel better? To impress? To escape? Money is emotional. Every dollar you move carries meaning. Step 2. Rewrite the narrative. You are no longer your past. You're not your parents. You're not your old zip code. You are becoming something new. Every time you make a conscious financial choice, you're building a new identity. A wealth identity. One that says, I deserve to keep what I earn. I create more than I consume. I invest in my future because I matter. And step 3. Create space. Don't just budget your money. Budget your energy. Budget your time. Budget your dreams. Say no to things that drain you, even if they're familiar. Because cycles are fueled by comfort. And wealth is built through discomfort. Discipline. Deliberate design. Halfway through his transformation, Marcus started a new ritual. Every Friday, he'd sit down with his money. Not to panic. Not to react. But to plan. He called it Wealth Hour. He'd light a candle, play jazz, and look at every dollar as a building block, not a burden. Within a year, Marcus paid off $12,000 in debt. Not because he made more, but because he thought differently. His hustle didn't change. He did. And that's the secret. The most powerful wealth you'll ever build is the kind you can carry with you in any job, any city, any economy. It's the kind that starts in the mind and ends in legacy. Before we move forward, if this chapter is resonating with you, take a second to like, subscribe, and share this channel with someone who needs it. Your voice might be the bridge someone else is waiting for. Now, back to the journey. I want you to ask yourself tonight, am I working harder or smarter? Am I hustling toward freedom or running in circles? Because if you're stuck in a cycle, you don't need more speed. You need a shift. And that shift begins now. Chapter 3, The Power of Ownership. Ownership isn't just about deeds and titles. It's about authority over your life, over your time, over your energy, over your decisions. Here's the truth. Most people don't feel broke because they don't make enough money. They feel broke because they don't feel in control. They wake up to alarms they didn't set. Go to jobs they secretly resent. Say yes to obligations that drain them. And spend weekends trying to recover from a life they never chose. That's not freedom. That's survival. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt like your time was yours? Not just on vacation. Not just during a 3-day weekend. But on a regular Wednesday morning. When your decisions aligned with your desires. That feeling of alignment, of authority, of choice. That's ownership. Let's talk about Angel. She was 42. Worked in HR for nearly 2 decades. Paid well. Respected. But quietly, she was exhausted. She called it golden handcuffs. Her job looked shiny on the outside. But on the inside, it was slowly draining her life. She told me something I'll never forget. I don't hate my job. I just hate who I've become trying to keep it. That hit me like a punch to the chest. Because there's a moment in every wealth journey where you have to ask, do I own this life? Or am I renting it? Angel made a bold decision. She started waking up an hour earlier. Not to scroll. Not to rush. But to write. She had always loved writing. Stories, articles, little blog posts. She never thought much of it. But her words resonated. 1 post turned into 10. 10 turned into a following. Eventually, she launched a course, built a brand, and 3 years later, walked away from corporate life completely. But she didn't just leave a job. She reclaimed her voice. That's the power of ownership. You may not be able to quit your job tomorrow, but you can reclaim your mornings. You can own your schedule, 1 hour at a time. You can start treating your ideas like they matter. Because they do. And the more you own your time, the more valuable your time becomes. Here's something most people miss. Ownership starts small and grows through consistency. You don't need to own a building to feel powerful. Start by owning your choices. Own your reactions. Own your word. Own your value. Because every time you take ownership, you build equity in yourself. Let's pause for a moment. Think of one area of your life right now where you've been acting like a renter. Maybe it's your time, your finances, your energy, your relationships. Where have you been waiting for permission when you could be giving yourself the keys? There's something deeply spiritual about ownership. It says, this is mine. Not because someone gave it to me, but because I claimed it. Ownership is where boundaries are born. It's where dreams stop being ideas and start becoming commitments. Let me give you something practical. Create a power audit. It's simple. On a piece of paper, write down 3 columns. What I control. What I pretend to control. What controls me. Be brutally honest. You'll start to see a pattern. The areas where you feel weakest are often the ones you've handed over to someone else. Now take just one thing from column 3 and move it to column 1. Make a new decision. Draw a new boundary. Speak up where you've been silent. It doesn't have to be huge. Small ownership creates massive momentum. You may be wondering, how does this tie into building wealth? Because here's the truth. Until you own your life, you will always sell it for less than it's worth. And that's the trap. That's how people with talent and dreams and brilliance end up broke, tired, and resentful. But not you. Not anymore. You're building something different. Not just income, but infrastructure. Not just hustle, but harmony. You're building a life that feels like yours. Because it is. Chapter 4. The hidden cost of saying yes. You don't go broke from just bad decisions. Sometimes, you go broke from too many yeses. The truth is, most people don't realize they're trading wealth for approval. Let me ask you something. How many times have you said yes when your body whispered no? How often have you agreed out of guilt, pressure, or fear, knowing deep down that yes just stole time, energy, or money you'll never get back? There's a high cost to being agreeable. And in the wealth journey, it's often the silent killer. Let's talk about Jalen. At 29, Jalen was making 6 figures as a freelance web designer. From the outside, he looked like he had it all together. But internally, he was drowning. Every client email felt like an emergency. Every favor from family turned into unpaid work. He was the go-to guy. The yes man. The one everyone leaned on, because he always showed up. But Jalen had no boundaries. And no boundaries meant no balance. He told me, I thought being generous made me successful. But it was slowly making me resentful. Sound familiar? Here's the hidden cost of saying yes. You lose pieces of yourself. One polite response at a time. Yes to overtime when your body needs rest. Yes to loaning money you can't afford to lose. Yes to plans you dread. Yes to roles that exhaust you. Yes to dreams that aren't yours. Let's pause for a moment. When was the last time you said yes and immediately regretted it? We say yes because we want to be liked. We say yes because we fear rejection. We say yes because we were never taught that no is a complete sentence. But here's the truth. Every yes is an investment. And every yes carries a return. Time, money, energy. They are all currencies. And if you spend them on the wrong things, you stay broke. Jalen hit his breaking point when his bank account hit 0. Despite working 60-hour weeks. He had clients. He had projects. But he had no profit. No time. No joy. That's when he decided to do something radical. He created a no list. It was simple. A 1-page document with all the things he would no longer do. No working after 7 p.m. No clients without contracts. No unpaid family projects. No more justifying his boundaries. At first, people pushed back. Some left. Some called him selfish. But slowly, the right people stayed. And new, better clients came. In 1 year, Jalen doubled his income. Working less. Not because he hustled harder, but because he aligned his yeses with his values. That's the shift. Wealth isn't just about adding more. It's about protecting what matters. You may be wondering, how do you know what to say yes to? Start here. Does it align with your long-term vision? If not, pause. Does it energize you or drain you? Your body knows. Would you be excited to do it if no one knew? That's purpose, not performance. And here's the gold. The more intentional your yes becomes, the more powerful your no becomes. Because every no creates space. Space for clarity. Space for creation. Space for wealth. Before we continue, If this chapter is hitting home, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this channel with someone who needs this reminder. It costs nothing, but could change everything for them. Now back to your journey. Let's do something together. Create a personal wealth filter. Write down your top 3 priorities this season. Maybe it's paying off debt, building a business, healing your body, investing in yourself. Then, for the next 30 days, every time you're asked to do something, run it through that filter. If it aligns, say yes with confidence. If it doesn't, say no with love. Because the most powerful wealth builders aren't just smart, they are selective. And that's the invitation of this chapter. You don't need to do more. You need to choose better. Chapter 5. The Price of Avoiding the Mirror. There's a moment in every wealth journey where you stop blaming the world and start looking in the mirror. But not the mirror that checks your reflection. The one that reveals your truth. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you looked at yourself? Not just with your eyes, but with honesty? No filters. No excuses. No blame. Just truth. Because here's the part no one wants to talk about. You can't build lasting wealth while running from yourself. And most people aren't broke because of money. They're broke because of avoidance. Avoidance of discipline. Avoidance of shame. Avoidance of accountability. Avoidance of healing. Let me tell you about Kevin. Kevin was smart. Naturally gifted. Charismatic. He'd start projects, get initial traction, then sabotage it all. He'd blame timing, blame the economy, blame other people. But deep down, Kevin was afraid of success. Because success came with responsibility. And Kevin didn't trust himself to carry it. He told me once, if I make it, I might mess it all up. So maybe it's safer to just stay where I am. That's when I knew. Kevin didn't need another opportunity. He needed to heal. Let's pause for a moment. What part of you are you avoiding? Maybe it's the debt you haven't opened. The budget you've stopped tracking. The vision board you buried in a drawer. The promises you keep breaking to yourself. Avoidance is expensive. It costs clarity. It costs confidence. It costs compound growth. Because every day you avoid the mirror, you delay the transformation. And here's the paradox. The more you look away, the more control it has over you. But the moment you look straight into it, everything changes. Let's go back to Kevin. He started therapy, not to fix himself, but to understand himself. He began journaling, broke his financial habits down, line by line, realized he was using spending to cope, to feel control in moments he felt powerless. Once he saw it, really saw it, he stopped reacting to money and started relating to it. He didn't just cut expenses. He restructured his self-image. 6 months later, Kevin launched a new consulting offer. Not flashy, just grounded, aligned, real. And for the first time, he didn't sabotage it, because he no longer feared who he was becoming. That's the invitation of this chapter. Wealth starts with wholeness. And wholeness begins with honesty. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to be present. You have to face the patterns that keep you small. Let me give you something simple. The mirror method. Once a week, just once. Sit in silence with yourself for 10 minutes. Ask these 3 questions. Where am I lying to myself? What do I know I need to change, but haven't? What would the version of me who's already wealthy do today? Write down the answers. No judgment. Just truth. Because truth creates traction. And traction leads to trust. And trust is the foundation of all wealth. Let's pause for a moment. You've come far already. Not because of what you've earned, but because of what you've been willing to see. Before we close, if this chapter gave you clarity, share it with someone who needs that mirror moment. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel. There's more healing, more wisdom, and more wealth on the way. Let's continue. Chapter 6. The Discipline of Delay. We live in a world that celebrates now. Fast answers, quick wins, instant gratification. But wealth, real wealth, isn't built in the fast lane. It's built in the pauses. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you waited? Not out of fear, but out of wisdom? Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not act. Here's the truth. Building wealth requires a discipline most people avoid. The discipline of delay. Let me tell you about Clarissa. She was 33, single, no kids. Worked in digital marketing. Creative, driven, and deeply impulsive with money. She called herself a treat-yourself queen. If she had a stressful week, new shoes, a breakup, weekend getaway, promotion, brand new car she didn't need. Clarissa didn't lack income. She lacked internal regulation. She was chasing feelings with purchases, instead of sitting with them. And here's where it gets real. Every purchase was a pause she skipped. Every indulgence was a distraction from discomfort. Every swipe of the card was a detour from growth. Clarissa once told me, "I spend so I don't feel stuck. But somehow, I'm still stuck." That's when we talked about delayed gratification. Not as punishment, but as preparation. Because here's the pattern. What you delay, you often deepen. Let's pause for a moment. What's one area in your life right now where you're rushing because you're uncomfortable? Maybe it's love. Maybe it's validation. Maybe it's trying to look successful before you're ready. Let's get honest. Wealth favors those who wait. Not because they're passive, but because they're precise. When Clarissa started practicing delay, everything changed. She created a 72-hour pause rule. No major purchases without a 72-hour wait. No emotional spending without journaling first. At first, it was hard. Her fingers twitched. Her brain fought back. But slowly, she began to feel powerful in her pause. Because every time she waited, she got clearer, stronger, less reactive. 1 year later, Clarissa had saved more than she ever had. She wasn't cutting back. She was leveling up. And for the first time in her adult life, she had options. That's what delay gives you. Not just more money, but more choice. Let me offer you something practical. The delay diary. Every time you feel the urge to spend, pause. Write it down. Ask yourself, what am I really feeling right now? Will this purchase serve me in 90 days? Am I acting from power or from pressure? You may be wondering, what if the delay costs me an opportunity? Great question. Sometimes, timing is critical. But here's how you know. If the opportunity disappears the moment you pause, it probably wasn't aligned in the first place. Delay reveals the truth. It clears the fog and gives your instincts time to breathe. Because here's the bottom line. Success that can't wait is often success that won't last. And when you learn to delay with purpose, you don't just buy differently. You build differently. You build patience. You build awareness. You build a life you don't need to escape from. Let's pause for a moment. Imagine a version of you who chooses power over impulse, clarity over chaos, legacy over momentary comfort. That version? They're not far away. They're waiting on the other side of pause. Chapter 7. The Language of Money. Imagine being dropped in a foreign country. One where you don't speak the language. Everyone's talking. Deals are being made. Signs flash past you. Numbers, symbols, urgency. You feel lost. Out of place. Powerless. That's how most people feel about money. Let me ask you something. What if the real reason you're stuck isn't because you're lazy or irresponsible, but because no one ever taught you the language of money? Here's the truth. Money is a language. And like any language, if you don't speak it, you get left behind. You may be wondering, why didn't I learn this in school? Why didn't my parents teach me? The answer is simple. Because they didn't know it either. You can't teach a language you never learned. But once you learn to speak it, everything changes. Let me introduce you to Mira. Mira was a high school art teacher. Creative, passionate, full of vision. But every time money came up, she'd freeze. She avoided her bank statements, ignored her 401k, felt panic every tax season. She told me, Money feels like this giant, angry machine I don't know how to operate. I just try not to get crushed by it. Sound familiar? But here's what Mira discovered. Money only feels scary when it's silent. Once you give it a voice, once you learn its language, it stops being a monster and starts becoming a partner. We started simple. We gave every dollar a job. We stopped calling it budgeting. We started calling it money mapping. Because words matter. Language shapes perception. And perception shapes action. Let's break down the money language into 5 core dialects. Income. This is the flow. The river. Where it's coming from. How often. And how secure. Expenses. This is the drain. The leaks. Where it's going. What's essential. What's emotional. Savings. This is the reservoir. Your buffer. Your safety net. The space between stress and peace. Investments. This is the multiplication. The seeds you plant. The trees that grow. Even while you sleep. Debt. This is the weight. The anchor or the leverage. It can drown you or move you, depending on how you use it. Once Mira learned these 5 dialects, she stopped whispering around her money. She started speaking with it. She met with a financial coach. Read 1 book a month on personal finance. Asked dumb questions until they didn't feel dumb anymore. And slowly, her confidence grew. She automated her savings, refinanced her student loans, started investing in index funds, just $100 a month, and tracked her net worth like it was her health. One day she said, "For the first time, I feel like money listens to me." That's the goal. Not to chase money, but to converse with it. Because fluent money speakers don't panic when things get tight. They adjust. They respond. They make decisions based on data, not fear. Let's pause for a moment. What part of the money language are you most fluent in? And what part have you been avoiding? You don't need to become a financial expert overnight. You just need to start listening. Start learning. Start speaking. Let me give you something practical. The Money Conversation Plan. Step 1. Name your fear. Write down the specific money topic that stresses you most. Debt? Retirement? Taxes? Budgeting? Step 2. Translate that fear into a question. Instead of "I'm scared of my debt," ask, "What's the fastest way to reduce interest?" Step 3. Find one credible source. A book. A podcast. A mentor. And spend 20 minutes this week learning the answer. Just 20 minutes. Because every new word you learn builds fluency, builds power. Before we close, here's something to remember. Money isn't emotional, but our relationship with it is. When you change how you talk about money, you change how you relate to it. And that changes everything. Chapter 8. The Flow of More, Creating Income from Nothing. There's a myth we've been sold. That wealth only comes to those with resources. But what if the truth is this? You don't need more money to start. You need more movement. Let me ask you something. When you think of multiple streams of income, do you picture luxury real estate? Stock portfolios? Passive revenue rolling in while you sip coffee on a balcony? That image is nice. But for most of us starting from zero, it feels a million miles away. So let's get real. Wealth begins when you stop waiting to be ready and start moving with what you already have. Let me tell you about Raymond. He worked the night shift at a printing plant. Nothing glamorous. Just enough to pay the bills. But every night, during breaks, Raymond wrote down ideas in a notebook. Tiny business ideas. Skills he had. Things people needed. One night, he wrote 3 simple questions. What do I know how to do that others don't? What do people keep asking me for help with? What problem can I solve today? He realized something powerful. He had helped 3 coworkers fix their credit scores. Not as a business. Just casually. Step by step, with spreadsheets and encouragement. It clicked. Raymond created a simple PDF guide. Fix your credit in 90 days. Sold it online for $9. First week, 2 sales. Second week, 10. Within 3 months, he launched a course, a newsletter, and a coaching service, all while still working the night shift. Today, that small income stream, it replaced his job, multiplied tenfold. And it all started with what he already knew. Let's pause for a moment. What skill or experience do you downplay? Because it feels too normal to be valuable? Most income streams don't come from what you wish you had. They come from what you already do well. Here's the truth. Money flows where value grows. And value doesn't require a degree, or a platform, or a business plan. It requires awareness. Let's get practical. There are 3 types of income streams you can create. Even from nothing. Skill-based income. Turn your knowledge into services. Freelance. Consulting. Teaching. Start small. Charge low. Learn fast. Scale later. Product-based income. Create something once. Sell it over and over. Ebooks. Templates. Merch. Courses. Use platforms that already have traffic, like Etsy or Gumroad. Connection-based income. Affiliate marketing. Referral partnerships. Network leverage. If you can recommend something and someone buys it, you can earn from it. You may be thinking, I'm not business-minded. I'm not an entrepreneur. But let me ask you this. Do you know how to help someone? Do you know how to explain something clearly? Do you have lived experience others are struggling with right now? If yes, you have income potential. The problem isn't that you have nothing. It's that you haven't seen it as something yet. Before we continue, if this chapter is shifting how you see yourself, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share this channel with someone who's ready to start. Even if they have nothing but a dream. Back to the journey. Let's create your first stream. Step 1. Make a value inventory. Write down what you know how to do, what you've overcome, what you enjoy teaching, what problems people ask you to solve. Step 2. Pick just one, the one that feels easiest to offer, and offer it for free to 3 people. Get feedback. Improve it. Then offer it for $10. Then $50. Then $500. Money loves momentum, not perfection. And don't wait for confidence. Confidence comes after courage. Raymond didn't start with a team. He started with a notebook. And a question. So here's yours. What can you create with what you already know? That solves a real problem for someone today? That's the beginning of the flow. Chapter 9. Scaling without sinking. Growth is exciting until it becomes overwhelming. The orders come in. Clients multiply. More eyes, more emails, more expectations. At first, you feel powerful. Then, you feel pressure. You think, wasn't this supposed to make life easier? Let me ask you something. Have you ever prayed for more, then nearly drowned when you got it? Here's the truth. Scaling is not just about growing your income. It's about protecting your sanity. Let me tell you about Amina. She started a candle business from her kitchen table. Hand-poured, scented with essential oils. Labels made by hand. At first, it was just friends and family. Then word spread. She opened a small shop online. It exploded. 100 orders in one weekend. Then 200. Then 500. Amina was thrilled. Until she realized she was sleeping 4 hours a night. Packing boxes alone. Running on caffeine and chaos. She told me, I created a business to escape burnout. And somehow built one that recreated it. Sound familiar? Here's what Amina learned. If your business isn't designed to grow without draining you, it will eventually break you. Let's pause for a moment. Growth is a gift. But unchecked growth can become a trap. Because more is only better when it's sustainable. So how do you scale without sinking? There are 3 simple principles. System over self. If everything depends on you, you don't own a business. You own a job with better branding. Start documenting what you do. Turn every task into a checklist. Create templates. Use tools. Let tech carry the weight. Automate and delegate. Not everything needs your hands. Automate emails. Outsource design. Use scheduling apps. Hire part-time help before you think you can afford it. Every hour you buy back is an investment in your mental health. Simplify to multiply. Most businesses collapse not from too little, but from too much. Too many products. Too many offers. Too many channels. Find your best-selling item, your highest return service, and double down. You don't need to do everything. You need to do what works. Well, let me give you something practical. The scalability audit. Make 2 lists. List 1. What only I can do. This is your genius. Your strategy. Your brand voice. Things that require you. List 2. What someone else can do. Packing. Posting. Replying. Designing. Circle 3 items from list 2. And commit to delegating them in the next 30 days. Even if it's uncomfortable. Even if it's messy at first. Because letting go of control is how you create capacity. Let me ask you something. What if success doesn't have to feel like suffocation? What if you could grow your income and grow your peace at the same time? Before we close, remember this. Scaling isn't just a business strategy. It's a self-preservation practice. You are not the machine. You are the visionary, the architect, the builder. And builders don't do it all alone. Amina eventually hired a part-time packer, then a virtual assistant, then outsourced her labels. She cut her product line in half and tripled her profits. She now spends weekends with her daughter, not at the post office. That's scaling without sinking. Chapter 10. The Lie of I'm Not Ready. This might be the most seductive lie you'll ever hear. I'm not ready. It sounds reasonable, responsible, even wise. But underneath it lies fear. Let me ask you something. How many dreams have you delayed? Not because you lacked skill, but because you didn't feel ready? You had the idea, the opportunity, the window, and then the voice came in. Not yet. Maybe later. Wait until it's perfect. But here's the truth. Readiness is rarely a feeling. It's a decision. Let me tell you about Eli. Eli worked in tech. Quiet, analytical, brilliant ideas, but always in the background. He had a passion for digital tools. Specifically, helping small businesses automate their workflows. For 2 years, he built templates, mapped out a course, bought the domain, created outlines, refined, but never launched. Every time he got close, he said the same thing. I just need to tweak a few more things. Still working on the branding. I'm waiting for the right moment. But the right moment never came. One day, a friend looked him in the eye and said, Eli, you're not waiting to be ready. You're waiting to feel invincible. That's when it clicked. Eli wasn't avoiding failure. He was avoiding vulnerability. Because launching something with your name on it feels like standing naked in front of the world. You may be wondering, how do I know if I'm actually not ready or just scared? Let's pause for a moment. If your skills are good enough to help one person, you're ready. If your experience can save someone a mistake, you're ready. If your pain became a lesson, you're ready. Ready doesn't mean fully confident. Ready means willing to move forward despite the fear. That's where power is built. Let me give you something practical. The readiness test. Ask yourself, have I helped even one person with this? Can I explain this clearly to a friend? Am I willing to grow publicly, even if it's messy? If you answer yes to 2 or more, you're ready enough. Start. Refine as you go. But start. Eli finally launched. His first video had 23 views. His first product sold 5 copies. But with every piece of action, confidence grew. Skill sharpened. Trust built. 6 months in, he had a full digital course, a newsletter with 2,000 subscribers, and a part-time income that covered his rent. He told me, I still don't feel totally ready, but I'm no longer waiting to feel perfect. That's the lesson. You become ready by becoming. No one arrives at success already equipped. They grow into it. So let me ask you this. What dream have you paused? Because of this one phrase? I'm not ready. And what would shift? If you just started now? Not with perfection, but with presence. Before we move forward, if this chapter cracked something open in you, take a second to like, subscribe, and share the channel. Someone you know is waiting for permission to start. Let your journey be the spark. Now, back to you. Chapter 11. The Worth Gap. Sometimes, the biggest wall between you and wealth isn't your skills, isn't your resume, isn't even your opportunities. It's your self-worth. Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at your price, your rates, your ideas, and quietly thought, who am I to charge that much? Who am I to lead? Who am I to win? That's the worth gap. It's the invisible space between what you're capable of and what you believe you deserve. And here's the hard truth. No strategy will outwork a fractured self-image. Let me tell you about Layla. She was a wellness coach. Brilliant. Transformative. She helped dozens of women heal their relationship with food and body. But Layla was charging $40 a session. Sessions that lasted 90 minutes. Sometimes 2 hours. When asked why, she said, I don't want to scare people away. I know what it's like to struggle. I just want to be accessible. But what she was really saying was this. I'm afraid to be seen as valuable. Layla wasn't serving from compassion. She was serving from wounded empathy. From the version of herself who used to settle. Who used to give and give. Without receiving. Let's pause for a moment. Where in your life right now are you undervaluing yourself? Is it in your prices? Your boundaries? Your relationships? Your tone of voice when you speak your truth? You may be wondering, how does self-worth tie into building wealth? Here's how. You will always sabotage the success you don't believe you're worthy of. You'll discount your offers, downplay your wins, over-deliver, undercharge, say yes when you mean no, and most dangerously, you'll shrink when it's time to rise. Layla finally raised her rates. First, to $75. Then $125. Then she created a high-impact 90-day program. She felt the guilt, the fear, the imposter syndrome, but she held the line. She told me, I realized I wasn't just raising my price. I was raising my identity. And that changed everything. Clients didn't just pay more. They showed up more. They committed deeper. They got better results. Because when she honored her worth, others did too. Let me give you something practical. The worth calibration practice. Every week, write down 3 things. A win you would have minimized before. Celebrate it fully. A moment where you honored your value, no matter how small. A moment where you didn't, and what you'll do differently next time. This practice isn't about ego. It's about alignment. Because wealth isn't just about what you earn. It's about what you accept. Let me ask you something. If your wealth was directly tied to how you valued yourself, would you be thriving or starving? Here's the truth. You don't have to wait for the world to confirm your worth. You decide it. And then you build from there. You're not charging for your time. You're charging for your wisdom. For your story. For the years it took to become someone who can help. And that is priceless. Before we continue, if this chapter gave you the permission you didn't know you needed, share it with someone else who's been playing small. And make sure to subscribe, so you never miss the next breakthrough. Now, let's take this one step further. Because when you know your worth, and charge accordingly, there's still one thing you must learn to manage. The emotional weight of success. Chapter 12. Holding more. We pray for abundance. Visualize success. Manifest overflow. But when it comes, we panic. Because we don't just have to receive it. We have to hold it. Let me ask you something. What happens when more money finally comes in? Do you keep it? Manage it? Grow it? Or does it slip through your hands? Like sand? Here's the truth. We don't rise to the level of our desires. We rise to the level of our capacity. And building wealth isn't just about increasing your income. It's about expanding your ability to hold that income. Let me tell you about Jordan. Jordan inherited $60,000 from his grandfather. Not life-changing, but enough to breathe. He had plans. Pay off debt. Start a business. Invest in himself. But within 9 months, it was gone. No business. No investments. Just new gadgets, upgraded clothes, 2 trips, and a deeper hole of guilt. Jordan told me, I thought more money would fix everything, but I wasn't ready to hold it. Let's pause for a moment. Can you relate? Have you ever received more and felt overwhelmed by it? More clients, more income, more recognition, and instead of feeling empowered, you felt unworthy, anxious, afraid? That's not a sign of weakness. That's a sign your capacity needs stretching. Because here's what no one teaches. Success has weight. And if you're not strong enough to carry it, you'll unconsciously drop it. So how do you increase your capacity? 3 things. Emotional regulation. When more comes in, so do old stories. I don't deserve this. This won't last. They're going to find out I'm a fraud. Learn to recognize your inner alarms. And instead of obeying them, breathe through them. Energetic boundaries. More success means more attention, more demands, more people asking for your time, money, and presence. You must learn to say no, without guilt, without apology, because every yes you give away costs you holding power. Structure. Money multiplies where systems exist. No budget? It leaks. No calendar? You burn out. No priorities? You react instead of lead. Build a foundation that can support more. Before more arrives. Let me give you something practical. The capacity calibration. Each week, ask yourself, what am I currently holding that feels heavy? What systems would make it lighter? What story about success do I need to rewrite? Because the truth is, your next level isn't just about more strategy. It's about more stability. Jordan started over. This time, slowly. He created a monthly money meeting with himself. Tracked every dollar. Built an emergency fund. Started therapy to heal the guilt around money. A year later, he didn't just rebuild the $60K. He surpassed it. And he kept it. Because this time, he wasn't chasing more. He was expanding his capacity to receive it. So let me ask you something. If you were handed everything you wanted today, would you be able to hold it? Not just financially, but emotionally, energetically, mentally, because building wealth from nothing means becoming someone who can sustain it. Before we continue, if this chapter reminded you of your strength, your readiness to hold more, don't keep that reminder to yourself. Like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs it. Together, we rise. Chapter 13. The Ripple You Leave. What if your wealth wasn't just for you? What if the choices you make today shape the lives of people you'll never meet? Let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered who you're becoming? Not just for your own freedom, but for your future bloodline? That's legacy. Not a buzzword. Not an Instagram caption. But a quiet revolution you begin. With intention. Here's the truth. Every financial decision you make creates a ripple. And that ripple moves forward. Into your children. Your community. Your lineage. Let me tell you about Arturo. Arturo grew up in a 1-bedroom apartment with 6 siblings. He watched his parents stretch $1 into dinner. No savings. No plan. Just hustle. And heart. When Arturo became a father, he made a quiet vow. This cycle ends with me. He didn't start with much. But he started with awareness. He opened a savings account for his son, even when he could only add $5 a week. He read financial books on the bus to work. He created a will, bought life insurance, started a college fund. And every time his son asked, "Why don't we buy what other kids have?" Arturo would say, "Because I'm building something you'll stand on one day." Let's pause for a moment. What are you building that someone else will stand on? Legacy isn't about being rich. It's about being responsible. It's about planting seeds you may never get to sit under, but knowing someone else will. You may be wondering, but what if I don't have kids? What if I don't come from wealth? Here's the beauty of it. Legacy isn't just about blood. It's about impact. You can be the first in your family to break the silence around money, to build credit, to buy property, to retire with dignity. You can change the culture of your community. Model what financial wholeness looks like. Teach others by how you live. Because every healed belief you carry forward heals a generation. Let me give you something practical. The legacy letter. This week, write a letter to your future self, or to a future child, niece, student, or soul you may never meet. In it, answer 3 questions. What did you overcome? What values built your wealth? What do you want them to remember? Read that letter back to yourself. Let it ground you. Let it guide your decisions. Because when your why is generational, your how becomes unstoppable. Arturo eventually bought a small duplex, lived in one unit, rented the other, used that income to build a small portfolio, started teaching his son about budgeting at age 9. Today, his son is in college, debt-free. Not because of a lottery win, but because one man made one decision. To start the ripple. That's the power you hold. And here's something no one tells you. You don't have to change the whole world. You just have to change your corner of it. Because when you rise, you give others permission to rise too. Before we close, if this chapter reconnected you to your why, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share this chapter with someone building something bigger than themselves. You never know how far your ripple might reach. Chapter 14. The Grace of Repetition. Success doesn't shout. It whispers. And those whispers? They happen in the quiet spaces. When no one is clapping. No one is watching. No one is posting about it. Just you. And the practice. Again, and again, and again. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you did something powerful, and didn't get immediate results, and still kept going? That's repetition. That's grace. Because here's the truth. Wealth isn't built through intensity. It's built through consistency. Not through one viral post. Not through one big sale. But through small, sacred steps. Repeated with intention. Let me tell you about Camille. She was a writer. Not a famous one. Just consistent. Every morning, she wrote for 1 hour. Even when the words came slow. Even when the page stared back at her, blank and cold. 1 blog post a week. For 3 years. With barely any engagement. Her friends said, "Why are you wasting time? Why not write something that sells?" But Camille wasn't writing for applause. She was writing to stay aligned. To stay honest. To stay disciplined. In year 4, one of her posts went viral. It landed her a book deal, a speaking tour, a new life. But what changed her life wasn't the viral post. It was the 1,000 days no one saw. Let's pause for a moment. What are you doing today that you'll thank yourself for in 3 years? It's not sexy. It's not fast. But it's holy. Because repetition creates rhythm. And rhythm becomes reality. Here's what no one tells you. You're not rewarded for how fast you start. You're rewarded for how long you stay. You may be wondering, but what if I get bored? What if I'm not seeing results? Let me offer you something. Results are slow, but identity is instant. Every time you show up, you're casting a vote for who you are becoming. And those votes? They accumulate. Until one day, they tip the scale. Let me give you something practical. The 30-day wealth ritual. Pick one small daily action that moves your financial life forward. Saving $5. Tracking your expenses. Writing 1 paragraph. Pitching 1 idea. Reading 10 pages. Stretching your body for 15 minutes. Commit to it, daily, for 30 days. Not perfectly, but persistently. Keep a log. Track the pattern. Watch what shifts inside you. Because the reward is not just what you get. It's who you become. Camille didn't become a writer when she signed the book deal. She became one. The first day she chose to write without needing a reason. That's grace. That's repetition. Let me ask you something. What is one habit, one small practice, that, if repeated, would change your trajectory? Start it today. Repeat it tomorrow. Protect it the day after. That's how you build wealth from nothing. Before we close this chapter, if repetition is the reminder you needed, like, subscribe, and share this moment with someone who's losing faith in the small steps. Let them know, small is sacred. And now, we come to the final chapter. Not an end, but a beginning. Chapter 15. Living wealthy now. We spend so much time chasing wealth that we forget to live wealthy. Not someday. Not when the debt is gone. Not when the numbers align. But now. Let me ask you something. What does wealth feel like to you? Not the dollar amount. Not the assets. But the feeling. Peace? Freedom? Confidence? Joy? Because if you don't define it now, you'll keep chasing a moving target. Here's the truth. Wealth is not a finish line. It's a way of being. Let me tell you about Naomi. She made $45,000 a year. Lived in a modest apartment. Drove an old car. No flashy investments. But every Friday, she lit a candle. Made a cup of tea. And reviewed her money with reverence. Like it was sacred. Like it mattered. She gave every dollar a name. She gave every choice her attention. She gave her future, her presence. She told me, I may not be rich yet, but I live like someone who respects money. And to me, that's already wealth. Let's pause for a moment. Are you waiting for your bank account to change before you allow yourself to feel wealthy? Because wealth isn't just what you accumulate. It's what you embody. It's how you show up, how you speak to yourself, how you honor your time, how you move through rooms. It's the difference between scarcity and sufficiency, between stress and self-trust. Let me give you something simple. The wealth alignment check. Ask yourself each morning, what would the wealthiest version of me do today? How would they speak? Walk? Decide? Where can I honor my future? Right now. You may be thinking, but my circumstances haven't changed. And I'll say this gently. Circumstances don't create identity. Identity creates direction. When you live wealthy now, you begin to attract, create, and sustain more. Because wealth becomes a frequency, not a fantasy. It's in the gratitude you feel when you pay a bill. In the integrity you hold when no one's watching. In the boundaries you set because your energy is currency. In the time you protect because your vision is priceless. Here's the quiet miracle. When you stop chasing wealth from lack and start living wealth from alignment, you become unstoppable. Naomi eventually grew her income, started teaching others how to manage theirs. Not because she mastered the markets, but because she mastered herself. And people felt that. So let me ask you, who are you becoming? Not when you hit 6 figures. Not when you launch the product. Not when the loan gets approved. But today. Right now. In this moment. Can you live like someone who values what they've built? Even if the world hasn't caught up yet? Because you've come a long way. You've planted the seed. Broke the cycle. Owned your worth. Created value. Held the mirror. Built your flow. Held your peace. Healed your patterns. Rewritten your identity. And now, it's time to live like it. Not for applause. Not for ego. But for legacy. So here's the final challenge. Start living wealthy, now. Because the world isn't waiting for your perfect moment. It's waiting for your alignment. And you, my friend, are ready. This isn't the end. This is the beginning. Of a life that reflects who you truly are. Of a ripple that outlives you. Of wealth, born not from privilege, but from purpose. You've built it from nothing. And now, it's yours to protect. To grow. To live. Take a breath. Look around. You're already wealthy. You just had to remember.